we all shared implicitly, at least most of us shared, those who were engaged in war, the outlook of Franklin Roosevelt. We wanted a world cast in the image of the American Revolution. We wanted a world of freeing people from colonialism. We wanted a world of build-up of nation-states and economies to eliminate the kind of desperation and depredation that we saw in Asia. What conditions we saw in Asia were for us almost unbelievable as Americans coming from inside the United States. We couldn't believe that this was acceptable. We were disgusted by it. We had great power. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of the British Empire. But Truman, what did he do? We had worked as people who were working in connection with where I was in Michigan, working with Ho Chi Minh. We had freed Indochina from the Japanese occupation and from French occupation. We had put the Japanese troops into prison camps, disarmed. What happened with Truman? Ho Chi Minh had led the freedom of Indochina with the cooperation of the United States against the British and against the Japanese occupation. Under Truman, reversed everything of that sort in Roosevelt's policies immediately. Went back to imperialism. We caused the liberation by the British of the Japanese soldiers from their prison camps in Indochina. The British gave them back their weapons and told them to reoccupy the country. With the result, of course, we had this little war in Indochina that we were stuck in during the 1960s and early 1970s. Against whom? Against our ally of the Roosevelt period, Ho Chi Minh, for the sake of the British. What happened then? There had been a liberation in the former Dutch East Indies, liberation from the Japanese. The British and the Dutch conducted a war as support against Indonesia. And throughout the entire world, wherever we in the United States had been dedicated to the freedom of former colonial victims, we, under Truman, went British against the policy which had made us the great power on this planet. What did we do to ourselves? We had intended to take this great power, this great economic power, which we had created and developed under anticipation of war and wartime conditions. We destroyed it. We shut it down. Instead of using our military factories and so forth and converting them back for civilian production and for the development of the economies of the world with the technology which these formerly oppressed people required, we shut it down. We put ourselves into an unnecessary recession. And we became a running dog of the British Empire. That changed somewhat under Dwight Eisenhower. But under Truman, we were betrayed. We went through police state conditions to try to get the Roosevelt out of us. That's what happened. Under Eisenhower, we were disgusted with Truman. Truman was told to quit. You bum, we don't like you. Get the hell out of here. And we got in Eisenhower. Well, Eisenhower would have been a good president in 1947, but after all these conditions, he inherited a government to which he was elected, which included people who were still of this British bent. We had Kennedy. I don't know how good Jack Kennedy was or how bad he was. I know that what he did as president in a number of cases was crucially important for the United States, and he did attempt to restore our economic policy to what it had been under Roosevelt. He ran on that ticket. with the support of Eleanor Roosevelt, heavy support from her. And he was praised. And then when he resisted not only the Wall Street gang, which wanted to kill him, but when he resisted the British demand that we go to a war in Indochina, Kennedy had consulted at length with former General Douglas MacArthur, who was still an acting general, though in retirement. And MacArthur advised him, and Kennedy agreed. The United States will not engage in a land war in Asia. That was the policy. That was Kennedy's policy. Well, a very simple thing. Kill him. And they did. Not Oswald. It was 3 guys crossing the border with rifles who were expert assassins. They killed him, got away from the knoll, the grassy knoll, went back across the border into Mexico, and resumed their role in the same operation which had been deployed in many attempts to assassinate Charles de Gaulle in France. This was the anti-Gaullist fascist movement. At that point, the minute the president was dead, President Johnson came in. Johnson, as said later, was terrified. He thought that the same 3 rifles which had taken down John Kennedy were about to take him down if he resisted, as Kennedy had, the idea of plunging the United States into war in Indochina and similar kinds of wars. Since that time, because Johnson's fear that he would be assassinated if he didn't go along with these guys, we have gone consistently down, 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 down. And since the middle of the 1960s, approximately, but most conspicuously since 1968, since the decision made by Johnson as of March 1st, 1968, the U.S. system, as defined by Roosevelt, was shot down. And since about 1966, there has been a consistent collapse per capita and per square kilometer of the physical economy of the United States and of the mean condition of welfare of the typical citizen of the United States.